truly be the one who would take charge and save us from the Romans who were ruling us? I sure hoped so. Hosanna.
I was with Jesus that day he rode into Jerusalem. He was my rabbi, my teacher. I was one of his disciples. I had been with Jesus for the past 3 years, and together we had traveled all over Judea, Galilee, and even Samaria. I listened to Jesus teach about the way God wants us to live. I watched, amazed, as Jesus healed people who were blind or lame, and fed crowds of people with only a small amount of bread and fish. On Monday, the day after we entered into Jerusalem, among the palm branches and the shouts of Hosanna, Jesus wanted to go to the temple. It was so crowded there. Jewish visitors from all over the empire had come to celebrate the Passover. Everyone had to offer sacrifices. The streets and shops outside the temple walls were filled with buyers and sellers. In fact, there were even shops set up in the temple courtyards where people could buy their birds to be sacrificed. Money changers were there too, so travelers from all other lands could trade their coins. Jesus watched all of us for a while, and then he began to yell, "Get out of here! This is supposed to be a place of prayer. You're robbing these people with the prices you are charging. Get out!" He even tipped over the tables of the money changers. I hadn't seen Jesus get upset like that very often, but he had a good reason.
My name is Simon, and I'm a Pharisee. I used to have leprosy and was sent away from my town of Bethany. A while ago, Jesus healed me, so I was allowed to return home. On Wednesday, I invited Jesus and his disciples to my home. A strange thing happened while they were with me. A woman whom we all knew had a very bad reputation came into the house and poured expensive perfume on Jesus' head. Many of us thought this was really wasteful. She should have sold the perfume and used the money to help poor people. Jesus, he knew what we were thinking. He told us that he appreciated what she did, that she was preparing his body to be buried. We thought that was a strange and scary thing for Jesus to say. Why was he talking about being buried when he was alive and well right in front of us?
I too was with Jesus when all these things happened. In fact, I traveled with Jesus for 3 years as one of his disciples. My name is Judas. I listened to Jesus teach. I saw him heal people. I laughed with him at meals, followed him along the road, and wondered if he really was who so many people thought he was, Messiah. I just didn't know for sure. There were lots of people who thought he was the Son of God, but many of the leaders of our people, the Pharisees and elders, were suspicious of him. They didn't think he was the one we Jews have been waiting for so many years. I didn't know what to think. I was confused. During those first few days in Jerusalem for the Passover feast, my doubts got the better of me. I decided I'd had enough. I knew the Pharisees and priests wanted to get rid of Jesus because they thought he was leading so many people astray. On Wednesday, I went to see them. I offered to be a spy among the disciples. I could help them get Jesus. They were willing to pay me 30 pieces of silver. I went back to Jesus and the disciples. But from that moment on, I was always on the lookout for the right opportunity to alert the Pharisees and priests when the time was right to nab Jesus. And now it has come to this. I regret that I ever offered to help the Pharisees. Why did I do that? Jesus is innocent.
I was there when they crucified my Lord. I too am one of Jesus' disciples. I am Peter. Last night, Thursday, was a strange night full of astonishing happenings and many questions. The other disciples were gathered together and Jesus in the upstairs room in Jerusalem. We were eating the Passover feast, lamb, unleavened bread, wine, and bitter herbs. Remember the story of our ancestors, the Israelites. Leaving Egypt thousands of years ago, while we were eating, Jesus got up from the table and began to wash our feet. Usually a servant did this kind of work. We disciples were all shocked to see our rabbi, our teacher, do this for us. When Jesus got to me, I told him I didn't want him to wash my feet, but Jesus insisted that he do it. Later, when he returned to the table, Jesus started talking of many strange things. He said one of us would betray him. I was stunned. How could it be? One after another, we asked, "Is it I, Lord? Is it I?" John was sitting next to Jesus at the table, so I nudged him to ask Jesus which one of us it would be. Jesus told us it was the person he would share a piece of bread with, and after that, he dipped in a bowl to scoop up some food. Then Jesus dipped the bread and handed it to Judas, saying, "What you're about to do, do it quickly." Jesus got up and left. He looked at us. We looked at each other, wondering, where has Judas gone? How was Judas going to betray Jesus? Later, after that, he continued eating our meal. Jesus shared bread and wine with us. He told us that we are his body and blood that would be given for us. We were confused. What did he mean? When we finished eating, we sang a song together, then got up and walked to a garden outside the city walls, the Garden of Gethsemane. It was full of olive trees. While walking there, Jesus told us we would all run away from him that night. Why would he say that? Why would he do that? I told Jesus I would never desert him. Jesus looked me straight in the eyes and sadly said, "It is this very night before the rooster crows that you will say you don't know me 3 times. I couldn't believe that he was saying, but now it has happened.
I am the disciple James. I was with Jesus and the others on Thursday night when we went to the Garden of Gethsemane. It was dark. Jesus wanted to pray, and he told the other disciples to stay in one area, and then he took John, Peter, and myself a little farther into the garden. Jesus became very troubled, and he told us to watch while he prayed. And he went even farther into the garden to pray by himself. We sat there for a while and began to feel very sleepy. We must have dozed off because Jesus came back to us and asked us again to keep watch. But we fell asleep once more. The next thing we knew, Jesus was telling us to get up. We saw people all around us, and they didn't look very happy. They had clubs and swords, and Judas was with them. Judas walked up to Jesus and greeted him in the way that friends always greet one another, with a kiss. Immediately they seized Jesus. One of the disciples wanted to defend him, so he drew his sword and began to fight with one of the men in the crowd, and he cut off his ear. Jesus told the disciple to put away the sword. Then he touched the ear of the man and healed it. We were all so afraid. What was happening? I'm embarrassed to say that we all ran away, just like Jesus said we would.
wasn't in the garden Thursday night, but I saw Jesus. The crowd that sees Jesus brought him to my house in the middle of the night. My name is Caiaphas. I am the high priest of the Jews. All the leaders of the Jews were gathered with me. We finally had Jesus right where we wanted him. Now we just had to find a reason to give him the death penalty. So we put him on trial in our Jewish court. Several people came forward accusing Jesus of one crime or another. But now, none of the crimes were punishable by death. Jesus didn't speak a word to defend himself. I was getting frustrated with all of this. So I finally asked Jesus the only question I knew that I could condemn him. Are you the Christ, the Son of God? When Jesus said yes, I couldn't believe my ears. He had spoken the worst lie any person could ever say. We call this blasphemy, and it was punishable by death. Our only problem was that the Romans wouldn't allow us to punish someone in this way, so we had to pass him along to the Roman officials and convince them that this man should die.
Early Friday morning, the Jewish leaders brought Jesus to me. I am Pilate, the Roman governor in this region. When the Jewish leaders brought Jesus to me, I told them to punish Jesus according to their own laws. But they said they weren't allowed to put anyone to death. This was true. Under Roman law, only the Romans could put someone to death. The leaders told me Jesus had been stirring up trouble among the people, saying he was a king. This would have been a bad political move for anyone in the Roman Empire. But when I questioned Jesus about this, I found nothing wrong with him. I decided to just punish him and release him. The Jewish leaders did not want that. They wanted something worse. As I was trying to figure out what to do, my wife's servant came to me with a message from her. Don't have anything to do with this man because he is innocent. What was I going to do? I decided to offer the Jews a choice. During their Passover week each year, as an act of goodwill, I would release a Jewish prisoner from the Roman jail. A murderer was in the jail at that time, Barabbas. Certainly, given a choice, the Jews would want the murderer Barabbas to stay in jail and would agree to releasing Jesus, who hadn't done anything as horrible as murder. To my surprise, they said they wanted Barabbas released. I asked what they wanted me to do with Jesus. They shouted over and over, "Crucify him, crucify him." That was a punishment reserved for the worst criminals. The crowd was getting more and more angry. This was a problem. We'd had lots of riots in this region in the last few years, and the Roman Emperor did not like it. I decided to give the people what they wanted so they would not start another riot. But right in front of them, I washed my hands and told them I would not be responsible for his death. I released Barabbas from jail and handed Jesus over to my soldiers.
I was there. I was one of the Roman soldiers who led Jesus away from Pilate. We brought him to our compound and punished him as we would any criminal. The Jews said he claimed to be king, so we put a royal robe on him. He needed a crown, so we found some thorny branches nearby and twisted them into a circle and put them on his head. We even found a king's scepter for him in some nearby reeds. We mocked him, saying, "Hail to the King of the Jews!" And then we got down to business. We spat on him. We took the reeds from his hand and hit him on the head over and over. With each hit, the thorns would make his makeshift crown dig deeper into his scalp. And finally, we whipped him 39 times. Then we led him away to be crucified.
I was there along a street in Jerusalem as the Roman soldiers led Jesus to the place of crucifixion. My name is Simon. I came from Cyrene in Africa to celebrate the Passover here in Jerusalem. I've been here before many times, but this time everything is different. People have been really upset about this man Jesus. I've heard some think he is the Messiah, but the Jewish leaders don't think so. Early Friday morning, I was walking through Jerusalem when I noticed a crowd gathering. I stopped to see what was going on. I saw a man escorted by Roman guards. He was stumbling down the street. He was covered in blood, and there were many open wounds on his skin. He looked as though he had recently been whipped. He was carrying a thick beam of wood. I had heard about this kind of punishment from the Romans, crucifixion. As the man neared me, his strength ran out. One of the soldiers grabbed me and told me to pick up the wooden beam. I knew I had to obey. The beam was heavy. It must have been 30 or 40 pounds. I carried it through the streets with me, or with the man, Jesus, stumbling near me. We went out of the city gate to the place called Golgotha.
I was there with Jesus when he was crucified on Friday. I am John, one of Jesus' closest disciples. The events of that week confused and frightened me. I couldn't believe that what had started out so joyously on Sunday with the palm branches waving now ended so horribly, with Jesus being crucified as a criminal. I couldn't imagine how strong the pain was when the soldiers nailed his wrists and ankles to the wooden beams. I stood there for 6 hours with Jesus' mother, Mary. The cross was located on a small hill outside the city gates. It was right next to the main road into the city. Many people walked by. Some of them shielded their eyes and didn't want to look at him, for he was at eye level. Others, however, came to mock him, to yell at him, to tell him to prove he was the Son of God. The soldiers cast lots to see who would get to keep his clothes. Jesus spoke to me from the cross. He had noticed I was standing next to his mother. He told me to care for her. 2 men were crucified on the same day. Both were thieves. One mocked Jesus, and the other one showed deep respect. About the middle of the day, a strange thing happened. The sky began to darken. Jesus spoke to God, wondering how God could forsake him this way. Someone used a reed to extend a sponge soaked with vinegar to him because he was thirsty. As the afternoon wore on, the sky became darker and darker. Suddenly, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit," and exhaled his last breath. At that moment, I felt the earth begin to tremble and shake. I saw the rock split into pieces. I heard the Roman centurion say, "This truly was the Son of God." It was over. He was dead. But I couldn't leave this place. I stayed there. Some soldiers came. They broke the legs of the two thieves so that their death would come to them more quickly. When they came to Jesus, they thought he was already dead. So one of them pierced the side of Jesus' body just to be sure.
I was there when Jesus was laid in the tomb. It was my own tomb. I am Joseph from the town of Arimathea. I am a Pharisee, a leader of the Jews. Many of the other Pharisees believed Jesus was a fraud, that he wasn't the Son of God, but I believed he was. I had to keep my belief a secret because I feared what the others would do to me if they knew. I had watched throughout the week all that had been going on, how the Pharisees were plotting to kill Jesus, how they twisted his words and actions to get him in trouble with the Roman governor. I disagreed with the other Jewish leaders. It was time for me to be courageous. After Jesus died, I went to Pilate and asked if I could have Jesus' body. I didn't want his body to be hanging on the cross during the Sabbath. Pilate granted me permission. My friend Nicodemus, another Pharisee who secretly believed Jesus was the Son of God, helped me take Jesus' body down. We wrapped it in a piece of linen and brought it to my tomb that was nearby. The tomb was a small cave cut out of the rock in the side of a hill. It was getting to be late in the day, almost sundown. At sundown, the Sabbath would begin. We Jews weren't allowed to touch a dead body on the Sabbath, so we placed the body on a stone bench in the tomb and rolled a stone in front of the opening so no wild animals could get inside. We decided we would come back the day after the Sabbath to put the burial spices and ointments on Jesus' body.
I was there at the tomb, but for a different reason than you might think. I'm a Pharisee. I was satisfied now that Jesus was dead. He was an imposter, leading the Jewish people astray. That was wrong, and we needed to put a stop to it. But now I hear that two of our own leaders have buried Jesus' body instead of leaving it to rot in the sun. I once heard Jesus say that he would rise after 3 days. I don't believe it. But what is if his disciples steal him away and tell everybody he has risen? That would be worse than anything. To make sure this wouldn't happen, the other priests and Pharisees went with me to talk to Pilate on Saturday. We asked him to send some soldiers to guard the tomb. Then it would be secure and wouldn't have to worry about more lies being told.
I was there. I was there. It was so amazing. My name is Mary Magdalene. Early on Sunday morning, some other ladies and I went to the tomb to put spices and ointment on Jesus' body. While we were there, we felt an earthquake, just like the one on the day Jesus died. We talked with each other and wondered who would roll the heavy stone that covered the entrance to the tomb. But when we got there, we saw the stone had already been moved. We went inside and were frightened because we saw an angel in dazzling clothes. The angel told us not to be afraid. Jesus was alive. The angel invited us to look and see that the body was God, then told us to run back into Jerusalem and tell the disciples the good news. We were trembling with fear and great joy. We ran to tell the disciples, Jesus is alive. The Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. The Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. The Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here, he is risen as he said. Come and see the